Okay, very good. We'll begin the Planning Committee meeting of Akron City Council. I believe we have 3 items that are up for public hearing this afternoon. For those that are here for these public hearings, I will let you know that the procedure is that we will open the public hearing, ask for those that are in favor of a conditional use request to speak. Please provide for us your name and address. Then we will ask for those that wish to speak against a conditional use request. They will have an opportunity as well. This evening, we'll repeat that process, after which the committee will then make a recommendation whenever the public hearing is concluded. And before that, though, if there's anyone here that wishes to speak to the committee, reference the conditional use requests, if you could please stand and be sworn in by a representative of our law department.
If you plan to give testimony today about a conditional use request, please stand, raise your right hand, and answer in the affirmative. Do you swear to tell the truth in your testimony today? Thank you.
Thank you. First item that's up for a public hearing is authorizing a conditional use to establish a retail use at 601 East Exchange.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee members. Wholesale Mattress is requesting to establish household furnishing sales at this location. Proposed sales would take place in the front portion of the 9,600 square foot building fronting on East Exchange. The front building contains a brick facade, with the remainder of the building comprised of vertical steel siding. The petitioner states that about 2,300 feet of floor space would be utilized as a showroom and office space. The remainder of the building will be used for repairs to the furnishings. Petitioner will also lease a portion of the larger building at the rear for cold storage. The hours of operation would be from Monday through Saturday, 10 to 5 o'clock. The petitioner stated that the home furnishings they will sell are factory overstock and discontinued items that are often damaged and need repaired. They will have they also stated that they will repave the parking area and landscape the street frontage. Provided the petitioner submits a detailed parking, landscaping, and signage plan, planning staff supports the request, subject to the conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Antonucci. We'll now open up the public hearing and ask if there's anyone here wishing to speak in favor of the conditional use request at 601 East Exchange Street. Yes, sir.
Richard Cook, 5519 Talmadge Road in Edinburgh, and I'm here in favor of it. I own the business there, and I want to put retail in the front of the building and light manufacturing in the back and repair.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you. Is there anyone else here wishing to speak in favor of the conditional use request? Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Okay, very good. Anyone wishing to speak against the conditional use request? Anyone wishing to speak against? Hearing none, we'll now close the public hearing and of course invite you back this evening at 7 o'clock. And I'll open up to the committee right now if there's any questions from any committee members in reference to this conditional use request. Any questions whatsoever, Ms. Amobi?
I don't have any questions, but I'm assuming that the planning staff is approving this.
Yes, we're recommending approval with the conditions. The reason they need the conditional use here really is because for the retail part of it, it is zoned industrial, so they can do the storage and the actual, refurbishing of the furniture, but the sales part of it is what needs the conditional use.
So these are the 14 conditions that are listed here?
Yes.
Thank you.
Further questions or comments? Bring it up to any council members, any comments? Very good. Oh, samples?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've met with Mr. Cook and I've spoke extensively with Mike Antonucci about this project, and I support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Further questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll now move on to item number 2, which is authorizing a conditional use to construct a Tim Hortons restaurant at the northwest corner of the intersection of George Washington Boulevard and East Waterloo Road. Mr. Antonucci.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee members. TH Cleveland LLC is requesting permission to construct a new Tim Hortons restaurant at this location. The proposed development includes a 1,754 square foot building with parking for 26 vehicles on the east side of the building and stacking space for 11 vehicles wrapped around the north side of the building to a drive-through window on the west side. Ingress and egress would be from the northeast corner of the site along George Washington Boulevard, as well as an entrance and right turn exit along East Waterloo Road. Exterior construction materials would include brick veneer with decorative soldier courses, a horizontally oriented panel system, and an aluminum glazing window system. The submitted plans depict a combination of landscaping, including trees, shrubs, and grassed areas. Planning staff's of the opinion that the proposed restaurant development would not be out of character with surrounding uses and should not have a negative impact. Other uses at this intersection also received conditional use approval, such as the Circle K, the Get-Go, and the Chipotle more recently. One goal of the Land Use and Development Guide Plan is to guide the location of new retail development so that it will be convenient to residents served and will have minimal impact on adjacent properties. Both Planning Commission, planning staff recommend approval subject to conditions.
Thank you, sir. At this point, we'll open up the public hearing and request anyone here wishing to speak in favor of the conditional use request for a Tim Hortons at George Washington Boulevard in East Waterloo. Please step forward and provide for us your name and address.
Hello, my name is Jason Fenton, VP of Real Estate for TH Cleveland, 25825 Science Park Drive, Beechwood, Ohio. So we do obviously are in favor of the development and having an existing restaurant under construction in the Ella neighborhood. So looking forward to growing in the Akron market.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Anyone else here wishing to speak in favor of the conditional use request? Anyone in favor? Anyone else? Very good. Anyone wishing to speak against the conditional use request at George Washington and East Waterloo? Anyone wishing to speak against? Anyone? Okay, very good. We'll close the public hearing and ask if there's any questions or comments from any committee members. Ms. Amobian.
There are a couple of conditions that, well, one in particular I find interesting, and I don't know if it's there because you know some history, but number 11, where you're asking the petitioner to make sure the area is kept free of trash and litter. I mean, that, is there a reason that we're asking for that?
Well, that's really just a standard condition. We pretty much put that on most retail projects that come through. So that's more of a standard
And there's nothing
condition that we
about the
have.
history of these?
No, there's no particular.
The
yeah.
traffic engineer, has that person had a chance to go out and, is this going to create some congestion? Is that what the,
Well, the traffic
concern
engineer,
is?
yeah, generally what we want to do, make sure that it's okay from a traffic engineering standpoint. The traffic engineer's already been looking at this.
okay.
So when it does come through for permits, there will be, a chance for the traffic engineer to weigh in.
And that typically involves the spacing of the driveways and how far they can be from the intersection.
So it's not concerned about congestion or?
Right.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Further questions or comments from committee members? Okay, hearing none from council members. Mr. Hope?
Thank you. I just wanted to say that I am very much in favor of this project and thanking Jason and the rest of the people at Tim Hortons for coming into Ward 6 and bringing not just one but two Tim Hortons. And the first one is under construction, looking very good and rolling along. Should be open sometime later this summer. And looking forward to the second one coming in and hopefully maybe some other projects going out into that area where there's a lot of land availability and a lot of traffic and a lot of people and maybe a lot of business. So appreciate that and like I said, very much in favor of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Further questions or comments? Very good. Hearing none. Thank you. Of course, you're invited back this evening at 7 o'clock. Third item up for public hearing, conditional use to construct parking lot on the west side of Corwin Avenue, south of East Cuyahoga Falls Avenue.
Mr. Chairman, committee members, Swenson's Drive-Ins is requesting permission to expand the parking lot for Swenson's corporate offices at this location. The vacant land to be developed measures approximately 125 feet by 98 feet. Swenson's is requesting to develop this vacant portion of the property as additional parking for their corporate employees. Proposed parking area would have a 5 feet parking setback on the east, west, and south sides with an asphalt paved parking area to accommodate an additional 34 spaces. Curb cut and driveway apron would be located along Corwin Avenue at the southern end of the lot. The business has begun to grow over the past year with 5 new restaurants in the region and a possible 6 new restaurants in 2019. Their growth necessitates the hiring of new employees and thus more people working at their corporate offices nearby at 680 East Cuyahoga Falls Avenue. The additional parking lot will allow Swenson's to keep their corporate office within Akron. The expansion of the parking area will continue the current landscape design with the 5 feet setback surrounding the lot and a 6 feet solid privacy fence along the south property line to buffer the lot from the dwelling at 1046 Corwin Avenue. Both Planning Commission, Planning staff recommend approval, subject to conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Antonucci. At this time, we'll open up the public hearing. Is there anyone here wishing to speak in favor of the conditional use request?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Ronald D. I'm the Vice President of Real Estate for Swenson's Drive-In Restaurants. We have offices located at 680 East Cuyahoga Avenue in Akron, Ohio. We are proposing, as Mr. Antonucci said, to add a 35 parking space parking lot on Corwin Avenue adjacent to our corporate office and our Swenson's North Hills location. This is property that we currently own. It is owned residential, and we are seeking a conditional use permit to extend the existing parking lot for new employees that we've hired at our business since we have started to grow the company. As Mr. Antonucci mentioned, 5 new restaurants on top of the original 7 in the last year. We're going to add another 6, and every restaurant we add, we have to add additional people to the corporate office. So that is the purpose of the request for the additional parking spaces.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else here wishing to speak in favor of the conditional use request? Anyone else wishing to speak in favor on Cuyahoga Falls Avenue? Anyone wishing to speak against? Anyone wishing to speak against? Very good. Hearing none, of course, we'll invite you back this evening as well at 7. Thank you. One quick second. There may be questions. We'll open it up to the committee members. Are there any questions or comments from anyone? Ms. Amovian.
So the shaded area, all of this is for staff?
Yes, it'll all be staff. This is not additional customer parking. This is all for our office staff.
Okay.
Yes.
So the customers will still go around the restaurant?
Yes, they will, yes. We do provide some customer parking on Corwin Avenue on the front of the parking lot, but this additional parking will be 100% employee parking.
And this street doesn't go anywhere, right?
No, it's a dead-end street that ends at the right-of-way for Route 8 South.
Is there a reason why we haven't closed it?
Sorry?
Is there a reason why we haven't closed the street off?
Well, there's 4 residences on the street.
Oh.
Yep.
Oh, now I see them. Okay. Thank you.
We are adding additional drainage on the street that will connect into the sewer running up and down Route 8 to improve the drainage situation on Corwin Avenue.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Further questions or comments from any council members? Any questions or comments? Very good. Again, we'll invite you back at 7. Thank you. Thanks. We'll move on to the balance of the agenda, of which I'm going to request that we take time, short of any comments or questions, and we'll move into the new list of legislation. Item number 1, excuse me, authorizing a conditional use to construct Kenmore Garfield Community Learning Center at 435 North Firestone Boulevard.
So we would refer for a public hearing for next week.
Okay. All those in favor of referring signify by saying aye. Aye. The ayes have it. 2, approving the sale of 2 vacant city-owned properties on Russell Avenue pursuant to the City of Akron's A Lot for a Little program in order to facilitate the productive reuse of the property and to reduce the cost to the city and taxpayers in maintaining vacant lots.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee members. This is be sale of 2 lots to Let's Grow Akron. We're selling it to support their gardening program.
good. We'll open it up to any questions from anyone. Is the consent agenda okay?
That'd be fine.
Okay, very good. Is there a recommendation for consent?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Ayes have it. 3, approving the donation of city-owned land located at 473 Harvey.
This would be a donation to the Let's Grow Akron people. They came to us looking for a couple lots. To support them, we agreed to donate a couple to them with your blessing. Consent agenda would be fine on this one also.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Is there a recommendation for consent?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Ayes have it. 4.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. 4, authorizing the mayor or his designee to apply for, and if awarded, accept and expend funding from the Summit County Land Bank Community Development Matching Grant Fund in accordance with the grant approved project.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, this is for the Firestone Park area for Myers Industries. This is a grant coming from the land bank. The city will apply for the grant and be able to receive the funds for this. Myers is going to do some renovation on their existing building, as well as use some green technology, hopefully to save energy on that building. They currently employ 120 jobs, and the city is happy to keep that employment here in Akron.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Mr. Kamer? Okay. Mr. Clerk, if you could note that. Mr. Kamer would like his name added as a co-sponsor. Very good. Questions or comments from anyone else? It's kind of an easy one. I would say probably suspend the rules on this one.
That would be fine, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Is there a second? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Ayes have it. Very good. 5 is accepting a vacation plat for the Lock Street between West Bowery and Water.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee members. This accepts the vacation plat for a small alley between Bowery Street and Water Street. There's no city purpose for this right away. This would allow Children's Hospital to develop this property in the future. They would raise the buildings on that. They own all the property on both sides of the alley. So,
questions or comments?
this is at Water Street.
So the questions or comments? Is consent okay, or suspend the
Consent
rules?
would be fine.
Consent's okay? Okay. Very good. Is there a recommendation? Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. The ayes have it. So now we're going to move on to item number 6. Thank you. Thank you. Authorizing the Director of the Department of Planning and Urban Development to enter into contracts with consultants for transportation planning in order to carry out the intent and purpose of the programs under the Federal Consolidated Planning Grant for the fiscal year 2019 in order to further the Akron Metropolitan Area Transportation Studies goals and objectives for maintaining cooperative, continuous, and comprehensive framework for making transportation investment decisions in Akron Metropolitan Area.
Yeah, so I guess that's why we only come every 3 years or so for language. But yeah, so I'm the manager of the Akron Metropolitan Area Transportation Study. As some of you know, we're the regional planning agency for Summit, Portage, and a little bit of Wayne counties. We're governed by a board of 45 elected officials through those counties, but we are housed within the city of Akron. And what we're asking for today is for an ordinance that would allow us, through the planning director, to enter into contracts to hire a consultant. Specifically, we're trying to collect pavement condition data throughout the entire AMATS region on federally funded roads. Our hope is that over a 2-year period, and hopefully even a 4-year period, as we collect this data, it'll help us make funding decisions, better investment decisions for what our resurfacing program is for the federal aid system, as well as give us a number of how to use some of our federal money, because we get about $10 million a year, And one of our challenges is always, well, how much do we put to pure maintenance, and how much do we put to, say, safety improvements, congestion, those types of elements? So our hope is with this contract and getting some of that data, which is a higher level of detail than the stuff that we get from ODOT, would be a benefit. Finally, the City of Akron does already contract for some of this data for about 638 lane miles. AMATS will end up taking on about 144 of those miles, so I think the contract for the City of Akron will end up being reduced by roughly 20% for what they usually pay. So that'll end up getting paid through the federal share, excuse me, instead. But consent agenda is totally fine, and we'd be happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Very good, thank you. What's the footprint again?
It's Summit County, Portage County, and then we have 2 townships in Wayne County which incorporate Rittman and Doylestown, and the 2 townships, so Milton and Chippewa Township in Wayne County.
Portage, Summit, and Wayne.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's an interesting little subset of our greater region. Mm-hmm.
Okay, very good. Is there questions or comments from anyone? Samovia.
Do you have anything to do with ODOT?
That's a good question. We are partners with ODOT, but we are not ODOT. So ODOT's funding decisions and our funding decisions are 2 completely different things.
Do they let you know anything in advance?
Honestly, we know of some things in advance and some things we don't. It all depends on how well it's related to our program.
Because, oftentimes people ask the question, why are we doing all of these things at the same time?
Absolutely.
And the answer, from what I've been told, is that ODOT doesn't necessarily consult with us when they plan to do things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there's some truth to that. I think the reality, too, that we're dealing with right now, and which is somewhat unfortunate, is that, and we talk about this internally as a staff, because I think everyone does sort of have that orange barrel fatigue a little bit. Sure. But one of the challenges is that when the money comes, because we're all competing for those funds, when it comes and ODOT says we have to spend it, if you want it, you got to do it. And so sometimes, I think over these last couple of years, it's just been that perfect storm of a lot of projects at the same time. But yeah, there are some projects, and I think with the sewer work that's also going on, when you have all of that coming on, I think sometimes you get some, you'll get people that get a little frustrated. But it is a challenging thing to communicate with that.
Sure. Thank you.
Mr. Swirsky?
Well, could you take the initiative and kind of approach them and ask them, what are the plans the next 2 or 3 years?
Oh, I mean, absolutely. I think, ODOT does put out a work program of, the items that are going to hit certain times. It does get sort of convoluted because you have what's called local let and ODOT let projects. So there are projects that ODOT will do where they hire, they run the entire operation. Then there's local let, which is where it's ODOT money or AMAT's money, and the City of Akron would take the lead. And so I think, we could definitely do more coordination on that. And I think one of the problems, too, is that it's just sort of inherently complicated. So when a project sells isn't necessarily when, boots are on the ground and the construction happens. And so sometimes I think we don't know exactly when a contractor is going to start, at least at our level, because we're more on the funding end than, say, the construction end. But, I mean, we would be happy, and I think we understand that that's an issue of trying to kind of coordinate all the cats in the room that are doing different projects. And I think Akron's done a great job with the Drive Akron site, but it is hard to stay on top of that data and know where the contractors are sort of at all times.
Very good. Further questions or comments? Oh, Mr. Jason.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, as Mr. Baker said, I think what's really nice about this particular project is it is regional collaboration, and as he indicated, this will save the city some money because we can get economies of scale collecting this data region-wide rather than having each community go it alone. We'll still do it for our own local streets, but for the ones that are eligible for federal dollars, the more important streets, this would help augment that data.
Sounds like you know quite a bit about AMATs, Mr. Sagan.
I'm forgetting a lot now.
I've never seen that guy in my life.
Yeah, sure. Samovian?
So what makes a street or or street or road or whatever eligible for federal dollar versus local?
Yes, so it's actually every 10 years, the feds sort of create these guidelines of how many major arterials you can have, minor arterials, this whole system. And there's certain amounts of mileages that you can have that originally were established back in 1962 after the Federal Highway Act. And it basically, mostly it's determined by amount of traffic on the roadway and also the connection of the roadway. So if you have a very busy roadway that connects two major destinations, typically it'll be on your federal aid system. We have, and we're allowed to change that federal aid system every 10 years. But the simple way to think about it is it's like the streets that most people know, Exchange Street, Market Street, Wilbeth, Waterloo, those arterial type roads that are holding lots of traffic, those are usually your federal aid. If it's a neighborhood street and a cul-de-sac, like it won't be eligible for federal money.
Okay.
And there is a map that exists if you're ever interested on the AMET's website that shows all those streets.
A map.
Thank you.
Further questions or comments? Heard a recommendation, or we didn't from you, but somebody here want to make a recommendation for consent agenda?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Thank you. We're adjourned.